Alright, so before I pay off the cheeky thumbnail for this video that you just clicked on, and I promise I will, I've got a few guitar speed riddles for you. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to play a couple of examples of moderately fast lead guitar playing, and your job is going to be to decide which of the two examples is the harder one to play. And then think about what is it about the example you selected that makes it the harder of the two. So again, we've got two examples. Pick the one that you think is the harder one of the two, and then decide for yourself what is it about it that makes it hard. So here we go, example number one. Here it is. So that was example one. Hold it in your mind for a second. Compare it with example number two. Here it is. Now, obviously, there was just one major difference between the two examples, but that one difference made one of the two examples much harder to play than the other. Think about what the difference is and how it affected either the first example or the second example. And before I tell you what the answer is, which again, I will in just a minute, let's move on to our second guitar speed riddle. Take a look at the screen right now. This is a clip from John Petrucci's Rock Discipline video, and he's about to play his famous chromatic exercise from the video. I want you to notice what he is doing right before he gets into playing the lick at full speed. Check it out. So you can see John is doing some tremolo picking, first kind of moderately fast, then very fast, and then he gets into the full lick at full speed. I want you to ask yourself, why is he doing that here? That's not in the tab. That's not part of the exercise. So why is he starting the lick with that? What problem is that solving for him? What purpose is that serving? Now, whatever answer your brain just came up with for the second speed riddle for this John Petrucci video, hold that in your mind as well, and check out this little clip of an Yngwie instructional video and watch how Yngwie begins to play right here. Check it out. And for your third and final guitar speed riddle, compare the two examples you just saw, the Yngwie clip and the John Petrucci clip, and ask yourself which of the two examples is the harder one of the two. Which one is the more impressive display of guitar speed overall, the Yngwie clip or the John Petrucci clip? Okay, enough teasing, let's get to some answers. In speed riddle number one, where I played the two examples for you, example two was definitely much harder to play than example number one. That was because in example number one, I had sort of a running start. I was able to play a few moderately fast notes before the fast part happened. So that meant my hands were already in sync, my hands were already moving, my brain was engaged in the flow of the lick. So when it was time for me to switch to the faster part, I had a much easier time playing it fast. In the second example, where I had no running start, I simply needed to turn on my volume knob and begin playing. If my hands were out of sync by even a tiny bit, it would have been immediately obvious to you that I wasn't in control of this lick and I would be making a lot more mistakes. So for that reason, because there was no running start, I had to start from a dead stop. Example two was much harder. Now in the second speed riddle, when John was doing the fast tremolo picking right before his fretting hand began to move, he was in essence giving himself that running start to make it easier to lock both hands in perfect sync because his picking hand already was moving and he didn't have to start with both hands moving from 0 to 100. He only had to worry about his fretting hand because his picking hand was already in motion. You could even say that John was cheating a little bit to make that lick a little bit easier to play. And of course, I'm using the word cheating as very much tongue-in-cheek. Obviously, John is a phenomenal player, and let's not forget that he recorded this back in the early 90s or whenever it was recorded, and today he is a much better player than he was back then. But if we're just to be intellectually honest and objective, he was making that lick in that video artificially easier for himself to play. And based on what I just said about speed riddle number two with the John Petrucci example, the Yngwie demonstration where he had no running start and he started playing from basically a dead stop, just he lifted his hand to the fretboard and began shredding, his example was a much more difficult and much more impressive demonstration of guitar speed than the John Petrucci example. Now, just so we're clear, I am not trying to say or imply in any way that Yngwie is better than John Petrucci or anything like that. Both guys are legendary, they're both in a league of their own, it's impossible to even compare them. I'm just making a general point that applies to you, that when you're trying to play fast, it is much harder to play something from a dead stop where you played no notes beforehand. And we're going to talk about today what to do about this problem so that playing guitar fast and clean and consistently becomes easier for you. And first, let's ask the question, what is it about playing from a dead stop that makes it hard? And the answer in 2 words is tension flare-ups. Actually, that was 3 words, wasn't it? But whatever, let's roll with it.
I got 3 words: anger management.
The reason you feel tension flaring up throughout your body when you go from a dead stop to playing at full speed is the same reason you flinch or you get tense when somebody throws something at you or when somebody throws a punch in your direction when you're not ready for it. It's our body's built-in defense and survival mechanism that goes all the way back to our caveman days. Back when saber-toothed tigers were walking around and you didn't want to get eaten by them, it was simply smarter for nature to make humans to flinch up and tense up whenever we saw anything sudden going on around us, so that we would become as small of a target as possible and as motionless of a target as possible, and the saber-toothed tiger will be less likely to see you and make you their lunch.
Hey, I'll teach you anything. Just don't eat me.
Unfortunately, this does not serve us very well when we're trying to play guitar, and these same reflexes just make you tense for no reason and make playing guitar that much harder. The good news, though, is you definitely can untrain this inborn reflex and replace it with a new set of habits that's going to make playing fast, even from a dead stop, a whole lot easier and a lot more consistent. So let's talk about some ways to do that. The first approach is to simply prime your hands to begin playing before you start playing anything fast. And you saw a couple of examples of this already. You saw this in the John Petrucci example from earlier with the tremolo picking, and you saw me do this in the example where I played a slower set of notes building up to the faster scale sequence. Both of these make the fast part a lot easier to play. And you can prime yourself in all kinds of different ways. There's really no right or wrong ways to do it. You can just take the lick you want to play fast and you play it slow once or twice before you begin playing fast. You can take fast tremolo just to warm up your picking hand, get it moving fast before you get your fretting hand engaged. You can play some simple bent notes with some vibrato the way you see Paul Gilbert do right here. So how you prime yourself or what licks you use for priming your hands almost doesn't matter, because like I said, you can use virtually any exercises you want to prime your hands for faster playing and it'll all work. The challenge is in how are you going to make the priming more and more realistic, because what you don't want to do is be dependent on the priming technique to prepare you for fast playing, because that defeats the purpose of everything we talked about so far. You want to be able to go from nothing, from a dead stop, and play fast instantly and have it all be in sync and clean. And so the way you do that is by putting longer and longer gaps of silence between the priming segment and the actual lick itself. So in the beginning, you simply play the lick or the notes you're going to prime yourself with, and then when you're good and ready, you go for your faster playing with the benefits of priming helping you to play the lick a little bit faster, a little bit cleaner. And as you get better, you're going to put longer gaps of silence between the priming section and the actual lick to allow your hands to cool off, essentially. Now, of course, be careful. You want to make sure you're warmed up before you start doing this. You don't want to be playing fast with cold hands and then risk injuring yourself. But the idea is you're going to put longer and longer rests between the priming and the actual lick to make it more and more realistic and more challenging for yourself. Another great way to train yourself to not have tension flare-ups happen is to practice away from the guitar. So all you can do is you can put the guitar aside, turn the metronome on, and then close your eyes, and with the click going by in your mind's eye, imagine yourself playing the lick at that tempo in time, in sync, and concentrate on keeping your body relaxed as you're just sitting there and visualizing it. This destroys any mental barrier you have about playing the lick fast. It trains you that it feels completely normal to play the lick fast, and whatever tempo you feel is fast for you right now is getting closer and closer within your threshold of control and within your normal range, because there's no pressure for you to actually play it on guitar in that moment. And then when you pick up your guitar to play for real, here's what you do. During the 4 beats or so that you give yourself to count in before you start playing, you simply visualize how it felt when you were practicing this away from the guitar and reinforce and remember that sensation of relaxation, and it's going to make it easier to begin playing and not have the tension flare up. And if you think about it, you're already using this technique in other areas of guitar playing. When you're recording music in the studio, for example, they're going to give you a count in, usually of 1 measure or 2 measures, and that is so that your brain gets in sync with the tempo. You can relax, you can start hearing the music in your head, and you're already getting that running start, essentially, only it happens without any physical playing. It just happens all in your mind when you're doing this right. This is also why in powerlifting, as you may know from watching my channel for any length of time, I'm also a powerlifter as well as a guitar teacher. Experienced lifters follow the same series of steps when they're unracking a heavy bench press or heavy squat to go for a 1 rep max. They put the same hand on the bar first, they take the same exact steps to wedge themselves under the bar and get themselves tight, to hype themselves up mentally and physically for the big lift. All of those things are very similar to what I just talked about with guitar playing. So put these ideas into your practicing as soon as possible, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by how easy your guitar playing will start to feel. Also, if you want more help with building your guitar speed, hit the link in the description of this video or go to the page that's on the screen right now, and I'm going to show you a free 1-hour masterclass called Guitar Speed Formula. What it is a new way to build guitar speed that does not require you to start slow and gradually build speed in small increments, because let's face it, that's a pretty boring way to practice, and more importantly, doesn't really work all that well. If you want to know a new way to build your speed, check out the link, enter your email address, I'll send you the video for free. If you like this video, hit the like button so YouTube knows you enjoyed this content, and it'll spread it out to other guitar players like you, and they'll benefit from it the same way you did. This is Mike Filipov, guitar practice expert from PracticeGuitarNow.com. I'll see you next time.